Testing 1, 2, 3. Aleph, Beit, Gimel. I think that's the third letter of Hebrew, at least. Testing 1, 2, 3 in other languages. So, this has been a long time coming. I guess I could use a voice modifier. The way I see it, some people are going to figure out who I am within time. And the idea is to get some information out. In the meantime, I'm going to give some details just because I believe it's important. The year is 2025 right now. I was born in the year 1986, therefore I'm 39 years old. Born in 1980s, millennial, looking forward to Y2K. Bought into the patriotism of post 9/11ism and a little bit of that end times hysteria that came with Y2K. I have more than just one college degree, and I passed with distinction with my latest one. I discovered I have symptoms consistent with some dissociation disorders, and I'm presently trying to get that confirmed. It takes a lot of time and a lot of money on top of trying to be a professional. But my life has been too sabotaged, and even if we call that self-sabotage, I gotta go somewhere deep in the inner world of my consciousness with you, and I want you to see a couple things. You see, most people, I shall put it this way, more people than most people realize deal with what I deal with. That's why I'm sharing this information. Yeah, and the only reason why I'm sharing my age and when I was born, because it could provide context with our sociological I'm thinking about several things simultaneously. You got this thing called schema theory. We use it for AI, of course, and other things too. It informs how we construct our thoughts, minds, and if you take a child before they can establish foundational schema, they'll become very disorganized as adults. I believe COVID was one of the objectives behind the planned epidemic was essentially to disaggregate and disorganize people's natural sense of stability, and especially that of kids. We're about to go to some dark places right now. So I was about 38 years old, just over a year ago, when I was reflecting on the fact that I have been a legal adult for 20 years, a full generation's worth of time, but I could only remember 50% of that time, and I know that that's not normal, and I looked into it further. It's not normal to not remember only 50% of your adult life, and it's not normal to not remember any percent of your childhood. I had believed I was tormented by an evil spirit, which turned out to be nothing more than a persecutor / protector alternative state of consciousness of a dissociative identity disordered mind. I don't know where to go with this first. This is not like a DID channel, but the nature of my disorder characterizes my experience. There was a man who came out as a whistleblower against the government, and later the government, leaked that he had PTSD. Oh my God. I'm gonna swear in this video, probably all of them, and I'll make a point to, if I don't swear at all, at the end I'll try to intentionally swear, because you just got to get it out. Why would the government leak that a whistleblower has PTSD to discredit, right? To say, like, dude, don't trust people with mental illnesses. We come to our system, the VA, I'm not a veteran. I'm not going to be accused of stolen valor, but I think the government's trying to break us so we can be used as assets. There's a lot going on. So how to rein this in? You can even use ChatGPT if you're just that. If you feel like you can't research, we used to use Google, and we were told, like, hey, don't just use and rely on Google, and then Wikipedia came out, hey, don't just rely on Wikipedia, and ChatGPT is here, hey, don't just rely on ChatGPT, but try to go to a library. But no matter what, even like those books, like everything's like that's a government library, man. Everything's selected, and try to. I mean, start somewhere and spend time with your own thoughts and journal if you can. I can't, and that comes with my pre-adolescent programming. See, I'm gonna go by the name Demetrius, and that's not my birth name. I'm gonna have to try to refer to myself as that and not dox myself. I know what to do. Stand by. Okay, so speed run this shit, right? I was brought up in a Protestant family. We didn't consider ourselves Protestant. I didn't even know what that meant. I just thought I was a Christian and I believed in the Bible and that we weren't Catholic. But you know, Protestantism is Western Christianity. Typically, that's not Roman Catholic. That's what that is. So you got the English church that broke off because the king wanted to have as many divorced wives as he could, I think, and then that's the Anglican church, and then you got the majority of the other non-Catholic Protestant denominations is the Reformation, and Martin Luther ripping out books of the Bible left and right and being anti-Semitic and possibly contributing to the future Nazi movement. I mean, dude, this is heavy shit, right? And like, we have a presentism bias because we grow up and we look at the sky and we feel the temperature and we know the climate and we know the social status and the way things are, and we expect this to always be the way things should always be, the way things should have always been, and the way gas prices are right now, and and for example, and I took a climate class, and I was fascinated by, like, if humans have been around for tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, the shorelines have just been changing, and like we've had variations of norms of temperatures, for example. So imagine if you just take samples of humans throughout time. We go on our time machine and we go and collect people throughout time and get them in a conference room together, and they'll be like, dude, your time period is just way too hot, yours is way too cold. You know, you guys are doing something wrong here. Okay, I'm not saying that men do not contribute to pollution of various sorts, but that's not the point of this video, is it now? I am a abuse survivor. As a man, it's challenging in its own way because we're expected to just suck it up. Throughout my life, I developed a personality, an alter, a front. I thought it was a core personality, but this guy was the guy I thought I was and always had been, and the things that made him laugh and cry, and the types of films he liked, and everything else, that MySpace profile dude, that Facebook profile, that Zanga. There was a social platform back then called Xanga. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to preserve this for posterity's sake. Anyways, I grew up believing I was just one person, and I am not. I have over 123 persons, senses of self. I'm a polyfragmented individual, and like I said, I've seen a therapist who could say I have a preliminary diagnosis for TID, but that doesn't mean much. I don't have a certificate if that's needed, and it takes years. Some of this is just to be cautious to over diagnose patients, but our world has been submerged in darkness. I know that's like a Zoroastrian and Zoroaster type philosophy of light and dark. Dark is bad, light is good. But I haven't independently verified a lot of that. There's a lot of studies I've done on world religion, but it's not even just atheism. And Karen Armstrong in the book The Case for God wrote on what she calls fundamental atheism, and how that's just like that's like a new thing, and it's not necessarily a good thing. My primary philosophy is the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, where you get to believe what you want, talk about what you want, disseminate information like this as you want. And when it talks about freedom of the press, the press was just the dissemination information technology they had at the time. You pressed pages together, the ink, you press down the ink on the pages, and you push it out in the form of newspapers, books, etc., pamphlets. If they had YouTube back then, they'd probably find a way to generalize the term press, freedom of media dissemination, or something like that. I know this is boring, but it's going to be interesting, because I thought I was normal. I thought I was just going to school, studying, making A's, some B's, and then eventually more B's than A's. But I was programmed. I'm a victim of incest abuse, covert incest, infantilization, narcissism, covert narcissism. I'm just going this off the top of my head here. Religious abuse, intellectual, mental abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. For men, we're told to suck it up and go work and give your money to the government and other money to the women in your life, because don't you know that's what's expected of men. And I've been told by male relatives close to me, I'm trying not to, I'm going to try to be raw with this, but like I'm shifting to the plural now, because that's the way I sense the world as a collective of individuals. Anyways, so I've had men in my life tell me that I'm too sensitive, for example, and I'm too much of a sissy or a pussy or a wuss, and I need to just suck it up and try harder, work harder, dig down deeper. We're breaking, all of us in society, and you don't have to have dissociative identity disorder specifically to relate to what I'm about to share, and a little bit to what I've already shared. We all have parts of self, and the way we relate with ourselves matters. So I was raised in a Protestant background evangelical Christian, even though the family was Roman Catholic, but they had to move in the place they moved to in the 30s and 40s. They had to just go to church wherever the church was. And the closest church was not Catholic. It was Protestant. And by the time my mom came along, she became a fiercely devoted evangelical Christian. And I'm not going to live in the world of caveats and disclaimers and padding the language here. I obviously have a lot of resentment towards her and the way she managed her belief system. You can be an evangelical Christian and not do what she did. The problem with evangelicalism compared to Roman Catholicism and the other Christianities, like Eastern Christianity, is the lack of identity of the need for humility and self-correction, confession, ongoing working out of your personal sin. Because an evangelical Christian who believes all you have to do is confess that you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior, and He'll just forgive everything you do, and just and you don't believe, you're not trying like your life depends on it, like your soul depends on it, like you don't want to go to hell, and so you are striving to become more like God and renouncing sins and trying to always reform yourself. Most the evangelicals I was raised by don't believe in that. So you have this sexual sin, this lust, this loneliness, this greed, this selfishness, and you don't release that shit to the universe, the cosmos, to God, the creator of heaven and earth. You're going to start abusing your kids. And the emotional abuse is significant because it's invisible, and there's a reason why they call it covert this and that, covert narcissism, covert incest abuse. Okay, so we covered that. So I have received like this programming, and it's like Robocop at the end of the movie. I wasn't allowed to watch movies, so I never saw the whole thing, but I saw the end scene, and apparently I think it's the first one. The namesake protagonist is about to finish off the villain, but he can't kill the villain because of his programming, and he can't kill a member of the corporation. It's in his programming. He wants to, he has the capacity, he can take the shot, but he cognitively can't as a programmed cyborg man. And there's another character with the firing authority to officially fire the villain from the corporation, and in that moment in time, Robocop could kill the villain, and he did. And I think after he turns to the firing official and says thank you to him for deactivating the programming. And that's what a lot of therapists find they have to deal with when they go into deprogramming of cults. So I'm not going to get through this as quickly as I thought. When I was in college, I ended up in a cult, a church. They called themselves belonging to the prophetic community, and I couldn't leave it as much as I wanted to and tried to. And they took advantage of my disorder and accused me through various religious terminologies that I needed to stay, and the way for me to get better was to not leave them. And my mom was skilled. They didn't call it OSINT back then, but open source intelligence. She was very skilled at that, and it was part of her profession. And she promised me wherever I tried to leave, she would not let me go, and not in a loving way. It was like, I will find you, and she did, and I tried, and I tested it. And as much as survivors and occult abuse survivors and cult abuse survivors, I'll just use those words interchangeably now, they have an issue with, like, they try to leave the perpetrators, but there's an alter, a child within them, or some vulnerable part, or some programmed identity within themselves they don't even realize they have, that goes behind their back, and they don't know, they don't have memory of it, but these other parts of themselves contact the perpetrators and stay in touch and sabotage them and themselves and keep them in this web, this spider web of Shelob's web in the Lord of the Rings. Okay. So I was forced to go to a particular Christian college, and I say forced. That's another story, not interesting, but I couldn't not do it, and even if I tried to make it on my own or join the military, I was told I was tempting God and being like Satan by tempting God, and this was the path. And so, I mean, imagine and trying to theologically debate these people and being told that you're espousing, you're not honoring your mother and your father, you're practicing witchcraft because the Bible says rebellion is the same as witchcraft, and you're rebelling against your parents, and it's just all this endless and you try to reach out to others like, hey, my folks are like this, and they say, you don't know what you're talking about. Those are good people, and you're ungrateful for the good people that God put in your life, and at least your parents are together. I've heard that before, and or even more hostile accusations like, you fucking piece of shit, you're so selfish, and you're not appreciative of what you got. Okay, so not to trail off on that too much, but some people relate to this. Okay, we all have differences in our biographies, right, and the way we live, you and me, but here's something that happened. So I went to this religious school. I had what I now understand to be a religious psychotic break, and I was programmed not to say anything about it because I would not get a job, and that was the lie perpetrated upon me, and or programmed and instilled inside of me. And that's the thing with cults and cult-like families. You don't even have to have this ancestral family lineage of occult practitioners to have unrepentant hearts of individuals who just perpetrate violence and abuse upon their kids. Okay, whether you're adopted into the family system or born into that family system. As far as I am concerned, I come from a forgotten lineage of low-level royalty in the Celtic world, forgotten by the large family orders out there. Maybe that's a good thing, but I experience a lot of similarities to these survivors that come out, like Nathan Reynolds, Mr. Gray, who's married to the female host of the Imagination podcast, who interviews these survivors. And you have Anek Lucas, I think her name is, and she another survivor of these large-scale systems. They don't teach this in school. That there are the corporation families that proliferate our society. I mean, and the millions of children trafficked in these families used for various means, and the religious orders of these people. Evangelical Christianity is just for the vulgar people, the common folk, the masses. It's not what is observed in the heart of hearts of the elites and the upper echelons and the establishment of the society, of this global world we live in. So I had this religious psychotic break. I had to take a semester off, and that was like, if I was a girl and wanted to get an abortion, and how horrifying that would be to such a family. And how dare you take it? And they didn't care about my mental health. The only question repeated like a chant was like, when you going back to school? When you going back to school? When you going back to school? And I'm like, guys, there's something going on with me, and it just didn't matter to them. I ended up taking a semester off and tried to join the military, and we're going to tell you a story now. I hope you're listening. we were imprisoned by an ordained minister, part of this cult, this prophetic community. And it's like a charismatic Christianity turned up to 1,000. This minister imprisons me and my system, my altars. Ironically, he was the first to say that I had multiples, but he convinced my family that I was somehow a participant of evil by wanting to join the military. And he told them that the way to help me was to allow me to live with him until he determined I could live away from him. He had a wife he abused and kids he abused. And I broke out of there when his wife walked in on me in the bathroom, and I had locked the door and turned the light on, and she managed to get in there, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, well, you ain't got nothing that I haven't already seen before. And within 24 hours I was a ghost and living homeless and I broke, man. And I called my dad and I said, listen, I'll go back to school. You guys win. I'll go back to school. And but going back to that school was like where that religious psychotic break happened, and it did not matter to my folks. And I sucked it up, like I'm told to, and went in, and that's when I encountered what I now understand to be dissociative daydreaming. And this daydream persisted for 15 years. And what's this guy ranting on about? This is for people who understand what the fuck I'm talking about, and we live like this masking, okay? We go out into societies, like it's like I'm not saying I'm a shapeshifter, okay? I'm not, but it's like we are, and we shapeshift and we go out to the store and ride the bus and get the newspaper. Well, there was a time when you would go and get the newspaper, but having roommates and living with people is, I'm trying to stay on track here. Yeah, that's why I try not to say I have dissociative identity disorder, because it comes with other things. It comes with dissociative fugue. It comes with, with my experience with this stuff. The dissociative daydreaming is for me to function in this school again. My mind was elsewhere at the same time. So I was going to classes, walking across campus, doing laundry, and going to the chapel, going to the cafeteria to eat. And at the same time, I was in this other place. And I knew I wasn't actually there. It was not a hallucination. It wasn't a psychosis thing. It was a dissociative daydream. Dissociative daydreams are, in my case, you can call it maladaptive daydreaming. It was like I was in this other place. I knew it wasn't real. It was called, and for some people it's like you're in Middle Earth, or you're in the galaxy of Star Wars, or the universe of your favorite franchise, or maybe not even your favorite franchise. You just for some reason you're in like the world of Dick Tracy or something. I mean, it's just for some reason. Okay. And I would excel at doing my grades and pressing the flesh, doing networking, and making connections, making progress. And but like all the while, it was like when I returned to that college, I had ended up, and this sounds so freakishly embarrassing, but like it was like I was in the Dinosaur kingdom. I was in this fictional world. I went back in time, and I was meeting with humans and their lifestyle, like Dinotopia, if you look that up. but like, humans living with dinosaurs, and I knew that never actually happened. So I thought maybe, why, and I was like, why would God give me a vision about this type of thing? But there's this narrative I've lived through that bled through and came through, and it's a context of this that I'm sharing this narrative. I could just write this as a cartoon and have it produced, but it's weird because of the context in which this arose. I never knew anything about reptilian conspiracy theories at the time. This was the year 2008 and 2009, and I didn't know about David Icke and the reptilian conspiracy theories, and I remember this cartoon in the 90s called Conan the Barbarian, I think it was, and he would fight these lizard men who would, upon being killed and slain, disappear in these portals. It was a oddly specific story. Only lasted one season. I wasn't allowed to watch it, but I knew about it. Happened to catch glimpses of scenes on TV before being prodded to change the channel. Okay, so we sobered up a little bit. I wasn't drinking, but I'm just trying to find alignment here. And so about the daydream narrative is what I wanted to share. It was like a nesting doll of daydreams, kind of like 1001 Arabian Nights, where this woman is telling a story to the king, but in the story there's characters telling their stories, and it's just an endless regression, it seems. And we fortunately have the movie Inception to just casually reference that and say it's like Inception. Okay, I never saw the whole thing, but I'm aware of the meme, the cultural meme. So I ended up back at school, and it was like I was at Dinosaur Kingdom, and I had to figure out how to get out of Dinosaur Kingdom. And it was like I was a time traveler of a spaceship time machine thing, kind of like H.G. Wells, the time traveler. But in the series, the daydream began when I was busting out of that false prophet's home, that ordained minister's home, and it was like a Sinbad. It was like I was escaping a kraken in a whirlpool, while trying to, in the real world, trying to escape this man and go homeless and break out of his home. And when I try to tell people bits and chunks about this thing, they're like, "Oh, so it's not that bad. You just, victim shaming and accusations. I've received lots of accusations, but I'm trying to stay focused on the narrative here. And so falling, like, it was like I crash landed at this institution, at this college, and I would walk across campus or ride a bike across campus. It was like I was riding on the back of a pterodactyl. Okay, some of the students I'd see and meet, it was like, I can't remember. It was like they were the ones dressed up as if they, in the daydream, like a layer, like a filter. We use that term now. Like if they were like dressed up like prehistoric people, or if they were just like, I also imagined other people there too, in addition to the actual people I saw. That might not matter, but it's details, right? Fucking shit. Dinosaur Kingdom. What is Dinosaur Kingdom? So like, in my mind, separated everything into episodes of like a series, and I lived like 15 seasons of this, and I thought the daydreaming would end when I graduated. It didn't. I thought it would end when I get my second degree. It didn't. I went through serious life changes. The daydreaming just continued. I remember my mom passing away, and that was like the cliffhanger of season 8 or whatever it was. And it wasn't cute, it wasn't fun, it wasn't fanciful, it wasn't like I wish I had that. It was something I lived with, and I'll put it right here. It ended when I had an ulcer come forward, and I didn't know I had ulcers in the context of DID. But the primary one I've had since I was 5 years old, like, basically said, listen, we've got a lot of work to do. I'm going to shut this down, this daydreaming. It was a gift from us to help us cope, but we got work to do. And so the daydream, the everything was canceled, and I went from dissociative daydreaming to, okay, now I have these ulcers. I have to live with this, and I have missing time, and I have to live with that. But I'm jumping ahead too much. I just want to say, like, it's not happening anymore, and I'm going to get a question. How did it stop? That's something someone would like to know. So that's what, this is all connected to the broad umbrella of dissociation. We were programmed to not discuss certain things as much as we try to. And it's so hard to try to share certain things, but we're programmed not to share certain things. I don't think it's part of a larger government conspiracy, though those things do happen. And I know people where that has happened to them, but with me, I'm not so sure. Then again, who knows? I'm trying to come back to you guys here. I got it. I'm back. The narrative. So, in episodes, I was imagining my life, and excuse me, pardon me. It was episode 3, season 1, and I don't have notes on all the episodes and seasons, but I encountered in this dissociative daydream lizard men, snake. I called them the snake men, lizard people, and I don't want to dox myself too prematurely, so I don't have my handwriting displayed, and I don't have my drawings displayed, because we do have a unique signature when it comes to our art style as people. And so I went to the AI and had a conversation with the AI, and drew up 3 pictures. So let's go to that. So basically, this is like a depiction of an old world H.G. Wells-esque time traveler, time-space traveler guy crash lands into this time period of Earth, or alternate time period, we could say. And that's me, like, when I woke up and exited the dormitory to go to classes. I'm also seeing this image in front of me all over, and it's not. Listen, I'm just gonna say this one last time. It's not a psychotic. And psychosis is basically a hallucination or delusion of something that's not actually there. Which these things can blend. I guess you can have 2 things simultaneously, but dissociative daydreams are not psychotic hallucinations. And who the fuck cares? Like, what if it was? I mean, this is not a medication thing. This is like the consciousness trying to cope with going back to an abusive environment that causes a lot of harm psychologically, so cognitively speaking. And so, I'm daydreaming this scene, like my first days of school again, and aware at the same time that this wasn't actually real, but I couldn't turn it off. I mean, when you're like, I don't want to go there. you having lustful thoughts over a celebrity, you could stop imagining that individual. You can change the narrative. You can stop the imagination process. You can stop the daydream. This thing wasn't stopping. So proceeding forward. So I'm going to school, going to classes at this religious institution, and like at the cafeteria are these guys. Reptilian chieftains sitting on thrones, and they got these what do you call them? Like these little burners. That was a distinct feature. I don't know if it was for warmth or for lighting up incense for a particular purpose. And I coached the AI to have my character dress this way because it just like it's anachronistic, it's out of place, and it's like I meet these people, and I'm not like having a hallucination where I'm talking to them while I'm at the cafeteria with other people walking around me, but I see them. And there are particular attributes of this scene I want to share. Again, I could have written and produced a animated film and based on this, and maybe I can, or other people can. But this is not like a narrative that came out of the workshop of Walt Disney, of the studio of Pixar. This is the way this came to me is terrifyingly real. That it presents a narrative that I want to unfold. It's like if I found a book or a scroll and I share it with you, and I want to, I came back from the library and I want to do like a book review or study. We can unpack it, but this is not from a book. You understand the framework this is coming out of now, so we're going to keep moving forward here. So there's me meeting the chieftains of this dinosaur kingdom community, of this altered state of consciousness, and I never seen anything like that in media. I never seen the science fiction show V. I never heard of anything like this in mythology. Apparently later the Anunnaki were somewhat reptilian. Apparently the seraphim in the Bible, that class of angels, the name means like fiery serpents, and it's like wow. And the cherubim, that comes from the Babylonian and characters by the same name, and their motifs, their reliefs, their iconographies of the ancient Near East, they look reptilian. I mean, they might have a bird head or something. Some of them are scaly looking. They got scales, okay. But I would come later to find out this information. But I never heard of a narrative that said, yeah, you had the ancient prehistoric past where you had these chieftains, these reptilian people, serving as priests, kings, whatever you want to call them, and they're calling the shots and they're governing the humans, and that's what I saw. Okay, so going to classes, keeping this to myself. But here's why I'm sharing this with you. In this ongoing immersive daydream reality thing I was in, the people around me were adherents to the religion. So it was like the snake men brought religion to humanity and taught the early humans sacrifices, offerings, observances of astronomy, astrology, the art of ritual, the custom of ceremony, etc., etc. And I had to establish that. And I'm aware the Book of Enoch touches on the Watchers, the angels coming down to humanity to interbreed with humanity and teach humanity sorcery and magic and various types of specific kinds of magic, and other cultures like Saturn, the Roman god Saturn, gave civilization to humanity. And the anthropologist side of me is like wanting to be really sterile and cautious, objective with how we approach comparative mythology. But this is a very specific narrative that my mind was presenting to me when I went back to college. And it was like you had the cult, you had a very specific set of sociological traits of these humans. They blindly accepted what the Reptilians showed them. They had this group think, not like telepathy, but like behaviorally, like a flock of birds flying off of a power line. They acted in sync with each other, and they ridiculed each other who fell out of the group think, violently so, vociferously, belligerently, like a bloodlust, a fury. And let's draw back for a second. Let's say you are a fucking atheist and you trust the science and you trust the authorities, and like the whole COVID hysteria, that's that group think I'm talking about. It doesn't matter the layer. Back when we had so I did lighting in churches, and you can put the little colored gel plastic lens thing over the light to make different backdrops for the stages. And you can put different colored lenses over this phenomenon. You can say this is like the Crusades, this is like the Inquisition, this is like the Salem witch trials, or like COVID, where people, or the most recent wars with Ukraine and Russia, and you had to pledge allegiance to the side of the Ukrainians and not call into question anything the Ukrainians were doing, and you must hate all Russian families, even the kids. And I would hear how, don't you know that some study came out, and 80% of all Russians in the Russian Federation support the war against Ukraine. Therefore, hey, it's like this bloodlust, this fury, this anger. It's a sociological mass programming, and all this is what I walked to class with, taking all this in. So what's the point of all this? Let me drop my conclusion. I don't speak very well. I write better than I speak, but this is, I hate to use the word therapy. Therapeutic is not a bad word to use for this. But this is a narrative. And we can dissect it and deconstruct it and repackage it and analyze it, but of course there are going to be vestiges of this narrative found elsewhere, but the particularity, there are particular things here in this narrative. And again, maybe I should just do a little storyboard in another video. Maybe that would be a waste of time. But we're trying to arrive at a consistent narrative. It could be copywritten for this channel, and just keep going from there. But let's say I found the Epic of Gilgamesh Part 2 that no one found before, and I found it at the beach or walking on a trail, and the recent rains of a storm had unearthed this artifact, and I bring this forward for you here to observe and analyze and dissect. So now you know the form of medium. Now you know the context by which this narrative emerged. But there's something about it, the nature of humanity, the nature of us. Long ago, were there reptilian, smart reptilian humanoid, actual flesh and blood humanoids who lived and interacted in the open with humans long ago. Did that happen? Oh, and there's like a specific time period when this happened. It was specifically the time after I had this written down in my thoughts. The time after the megaliths. The megaliths were already built, but the time period this daydream is supposed to be allegedly set in, megaliths were built, and I know that there are dinosaurs in this. I'm trying to ignore that. I think it was just to catch my attention, because if this was, I don't know. I don't think I was like experiencing bilocation or dilocation. I don't think I was actually somewhere else, but I think it was like, what if my mind was being hijacked telepathically by something else? People talk about going on. I don't do drugs. Like, I wasn't doing drugs. It was under the context of a dissociative state. But some people who do chemical drugs and experience reptilians. Okay, this is very interesting. But I'm looking at this picture now, and I'm thinking here how you've got this concept and notion of, okay, so yeah, it was a time after the megaliths were built, but before civilization was given to humanity. I came just after. Like, it was like this was somewhat recent. Like this, like these reptilians were interacting with humans within that generation of humans, within their lifetime. And the humans were just going with it, man. And that's a significant characteristic trait. The humans were just rolling with it. And when in these daydreams, I try to interact with the humans and say, hey, what's up with those people, those lizard people? What, don't you think that's a little odd or strange or different? And just the amount of cultural alignment, forced alignment, so forced, like the T cells in the body trying to attack something that's an outsider, an intruder. Like, I wasn't allowed to even call into question how odd. Like, you got the story of the Emperor's New. I'll just try to wrap this up. I think it's Aesop's fable about the emperor who was convinced to parade around naked, believing he was wearing clothes, and the society believes he was wearing clothes and not naked. And one man said, no, he's fucking naked, man. And that's a direct translation from the ancient Greek, I think. Aesop, right? Dinosaur kingdom, reptilian, givers of civilization. And as the daydreams progressed, the reptilians faded from the scene, and it was just the humans. and when I revisit the narrative again, I think how long ago maybe something like this happened, that we were gifted civilization built on ritual abuse. In my life, even though I wasn't, part of me still says I wasn't in a cult, but I'm not going to argue with those parts of myself right now. We inherited a behavioral system on this planet, and we've got to undo it, and we can.